Human evolution. What is it all about? Will there be a day when every human being is psychic and we communicate telepathically and we can see into the human energy system, we can see auras, and we can work with the earth in a way that's sustainable so that everyone can thrive on planet Earth? I think so. We are in the practice for that. We're going to talk about that and more on ATP today on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM. Stay tuned.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
G'day, Karen here, accentuating the positive, expanding and awakening consciousness. And I'm so excited. I have such a special guest with me today, another Aussie, a fellow Aussie who lives just outside of Sydney, not too far from me, Judith Collins. Welcome to the show, Judith.
Thank you.
So, Judith, we've brought Judith out of retirement. A few times I've had the gorgeous Samuel Chong on my show, who is a young man, a Chinese American, who speaks about the book, The Tai Uber Prophecy, which was a book Samuel, when he was young, wanted to know the meaning to life and what created life on planet Earth and who are we as humans and where did we come from. And he looked and looked and he found this book and it just changed his life, and he wanted to find the author. Long story short, he found the author living in Vietnam at the time, but he was a French-Australian author who was abducted by these highly evolved ET races, an ET race that lived on a planet much more evolved than us, who took him there to show Michel, who is the French-Australian man, their planet, and gave him all this information about life, love, and the universe. And Michel has since transitioned, but Samuel is carrying the mantle for promoting the books. But anyway, in the books, Michelle, who goes to a highly evolved planet, everyone is given the ability to see human auras and to read and be telepathic. And when he comes back to Earth, that ability is taken away from him, which he was upset about. But he looked for people who knew how to do that. And Samuel also looked for people and found Judith all the way in Australia and came out to Australia, didn't he, Judith, to meet you?
Yes,
He was so
yes,
taken by you.
Yeah.
So Samuel introduced Judith to me and said, check this lady out. And she is a real gem. Let me tell you a little bit about Judith Collins. So Judith Collins, now in her 70s, has been seeing auras since she was 3 years old. She witnessed the personal and social changes in the human auras during the 50s to now. It wasn't until she was in her 20s that she learned how to turn off and on her aura vision. But when she was young, consequently, as a child and a teen, what she saw in people, she said, messed her up. She believed everyone was a liar and a cheat because they produced the loudest color combination in their aura. Judith and her husband, Paul, met when they were 17. Within 10 days of meeting, planned to marry and shared 52 years of blissful love and companionship, living a sustainable, self-sufficient lifestyle in harmony with nature on a sustainable farm just outside of Sydney until he transitioned on the 4th of September this year. They saw 11 past lives together as a couple, where they ironed out the ripples and reaped the rewards of unconditional love. Judith also works with plant auras to create an organic, edible landscape and has worked with medics and law enforcement, spending over 40 years lecturing worldwide. She's written several books: How to See and Read the Human Aura, is one of them, and Samuel has helped her get this released. It'll be released in Chinese in October this year. Also, Awakening the Miracle of You, The Color of Life, I Want to Be Healed, and Companion Gardening, Working with Mother Nature. And your website is yourhumanaura.com, and you've also got earthkeepers.com.au.
Yes.
Such a blessing to have you on the show, darling one. Thank you so much for coming. Let's start when you were a kid. Like, you were seeing stuff that you thought was normal to everybody, but didn't realize other people couldn't see. But what were you experiencing as a child when seeing people's auras?
When I saw people's auras, everybody looked the same.
Really?
And basically the same. They had similar patterns. And as I said to you earlier when we were talking, that most people had lying and cheating within their auras. And my mother did a wonderful exercise when I was getting worried about it, that I couldn't trust anybody. I didn't know who to talk to. I became very shy and withdrawn. And my mother said to me, she said, "You look at me, darling, and do I have lying and cheating in there?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Yes." And she said, "And do you love me?" "Yes." "Do you trust me?" "Yes." "Do you belong to me?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Now, just a minute." She called my father, and she said the same thing to Dad. You know, "Does he have lying and cheating?" "Yes." And then she told me that lying and cheating in a very small way was a method of survival in the world today. So that's how I understood it.
Sorry, yes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm even lying and cheating as I'm talking to you right now, because there are programs on this, StreamYard that make me look a lot younger than I actually am. So if you meet me in real life, you'll go, "Oh, that's not what I thought you looked like." So yeah, we all do a bit of that, don't we? Especially
Well,
with,
when my husband was doing the Human Aura blog, he put photographs of me there from the 80s and 90s, and I insisted that he put one that was up to date, so that people don't think that they're going to get this white-headed blonde, and they're going to meet somebody who's a lot older.
I know,
But I think
we all do.
I think the difference with me over the years, because it's been part of my nature, because I haven't done a course on it, seeing auras or accentuating chakras or balancing yourself and whatever, because it's something that I learned from just observing people, working with people, walking down the street, walking through shopping centres as a young child and as a teenager. It just developed. I just developed differently. I know working with the police and working with doctors, that's what they say to me. They say that I just talk matter of fact. I don't talk esoteric. And so therefore I'm more easily accepted by those genres.
Yes, absolutely. Well, so how did it unfold for you? Your mother said, okay, everyone lies to you. And how did you live your life knowing when people were lying or not lying with you, when you were witnessing their energy body?
Oh, because if somebody's lying to you directly, it lights up like a neon sign. There's a little sort of a flash that goes with it.
Uh-huh.
And if you really, really, really want to know what people are doing and how they are, see, most people, when they look at auras, they do a course in auras, they're taught about all the colours around the head and the shoulders. And those colours don't really add up to much unless they move down the body. So basically, you can meditate in the morning and you can be clear and focused. You can start planning what you want to do. You're working on spiritual development. Then you walk out the door and somebody insults you. Well, all the colours around your head change. And if you hang on to that insult, that moves down your body. And once it's moved down your body inside your aura, you're locked into that negativity. But if you dismiss it, and you're still focused on your balance of meditation, then your aura moves into enlightenment. That's the difference.
Okay, so as you think and
Yep.
believe, it shows up as different colors and energy flow within the human energy system or the human aura, and you can see that. Judith, how do you see it? Do you see it with your outside eyes, or are you seeing it with your third eye?
Both.
Uh-huh.
Both. When I do radio, I've done radio, and people call in and I'll read their auras over the radio. But most of the times I do that, I'm picking up health issues in their life. So it goes deeper. The third eye goes deeper. But the visual is just, in your face.
Yeah. So if you're
That's
not seeing
why-
somebody visually, you're seeing it in your third eye, like you've got a picture of them in your third eye, and you can see what's going on in their aura.
Yeah.
And so when you see them with your outside eyes, if you're looking at someone physically, if you're physically in front of them, are you seeing
Like
it
your
like
hand. I'm looking at your hands.
And what happens with my hands?
No, see, the colours around your hands indicate how you conduct your life. So
Really?
they go across your belief system, and that just doesn't mean your spiritual beliefs. That means your beliefs in your family unit, your beliefs with diet, your overall beliefs. But it shows how you conduct your life with strength. And if it's got burgundy in there, maroons, claret's the strongest colour you can get in a human aura. The colours around the hands usually show how you're living your life, what your sleep patterns are, what kind of work you do, if you want to change your job. It's all of that. But the most important colour in an aura, if you want to know something about somebody straight away, immediately, you look at their feet. I'll give you an example. I had a lady come to me and she was very, very, to look at her from her elbows to the top of her head, very, very enlightened. And I said to her, where have you been? In India for 2 years, contemplating your navel. And she laughed. She said, yes, I have. So I looked down at her feet. And I said, but you're not getting very far, are you? I said, you're taking 1 step forward and 3 steps backwards. She said, that's right. And I said, that's because of that. And I pointed to it and did the colour for her. And she said, what is it? And I said, well, it's old. It's about 20 years old. I said, it's a relationship. It looks to be more male. And she said, that's my father. I haven't spoken to my father for 20 years. And I said, well, you're not going to go to the stars unless you deal with the relationships here on this earth. And so she came back to see me 2 years later. The patterns around her feet had moved. She brought her old aura drawing and the patterns around her feet had moved. She had found her father. She dragged her brothers along just in case they were part of the issue. And she dragged her brothers along and made them face the father. And they built up a rapport and a relationship with him. So she was able to fly.
Oh, darling one, that is the work, isn't it? Doesn't matter how long you meditate or how many yoga classes you do or how you channel the ascended masters. If you still got crap with your family, you're not going anywhere, right? Like you said, your feet stuck in the mud.
That's right.
That's amazing.
Until you realise that it's not mud, it's relationships. In the astral layer of the aura, just tucked on the edge of the astral layer of the aura, there's a pattern like a scarf, a weaving scarf. And the pattern in that, it took me until I was nearly 30 to understand what it was. But I realised it's a barcode, just like when you go shopping and you scan your groceries, right? It's a barcode. That barcode is written onto everybody's aura of who they are, what they're going to do, what they're going to experience, and so on. And so that barcode, you can't change it. You can't say, oh, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to breathe deeply. I'm going to visualize. You can't change it. It's part of the incarnation process that comes with you.
Ooh, so it's a part of your soul plan. It's the barcode. I've never heard it said like that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you come
There's
in
a
with this
barcode.
mission.
It's about a meter long.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And
Or
it's
3
it's sort of 3 or 4 feet. It's sort of the mission that you've chosen to have, to experience, to deal with while you're here on Earth, incarnated
Yes,
into physical form. It's set in a what you call the barcode, and you can read that, like your soul plan. Is that something that you can read? And I want to
Yes,
say
yes,
hi.
yes, you can. You can read that. But inside that, there's a code. And it took me about 3 years to break down the code. And I had to have 6 people that I studied of all different age groups to try and get into this code, because I could see it, but I couldn't read it properly. Anyway, I found out what it is. It's one code that comes with us, and that is be human. That's it. Be human. And everybody's running around trying to be spiritual and lacking in the humanity. So they're not dealing with relationships. Instead of they're running from broken relationships over to trying to enlighten themselves.
To the
But
guru.
it ain't going to work. It's not going to work.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many podcast shows you watch. Yeah, you got to deal with the relationships. Absolutely.
Right.
I want to say hi to everyone that's online. Hi, Josie. She's like, wow, that's really interesting. And Vladdy, he's loving this conversation already. Christopher, Penny, hey, Penny, how are you going? Yeah, the human aura. So you said in the bio that you, as a kid, you didn't know how to turn it off, but when you're in your 20s, you figured out how to turn it off. What did that look like? How did you experience that? What'd you do to make the difference?
I went along to a lecture with my sister-in-law, who was training to be a homeopath, and she wanted someone to keep her company in the car. So I sat at the back of the room, and everybody's auras were in front of me. I was 27, I think, and I sat in the back of the room, and I thought, oh, I can't stand this. I just can't stand this. And when I got home, I said to my husband, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm not going to go out anymore. I'm not going to walk in amongst people, just seeing everything. It's just, I can't think straight. And he said to me, get angry, throw it out the window. Well, I did. I said, I'm fed up with it. Get out. And that's all I've got to do. Now all I've got to do is I go out the front door and I just say, not today, not at the moment. And it's as simple as that. But I had nobody to teach me, nobody to tell me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I grew up in a little country town where there was nobody, doing anything like this.
Yeah. Well, there's not, well, yeah, I mean, there's more now, there's a lot more now, but yeah. And when you were younger, even in the cities, there weren't a lot of people doing that. I think that's why Samuel was so taken with you, because he had read about this ability, and all the Sire Ubans, the ETs on the ninth planet. The book was originally called Abduction to the Ninth Planet, because it's a ninth category planet where these 9-foot tall hermaphroditic humanoids are incredibly enlightened beings, what humans would call masters or ascended masters or whatever. They all have this ability. What an amazing society that everyone has this ability. So finding someone on Earth that has this ability was really exciting for Samuel. And I think that when you're living on a planet where everyone understands love and peace and unity, it's a lot easier. But if you're living on a planet, as you say, where people are lying and cheating and deceiving each other and hating each other, seeing people's energy fields and auras would be really difficult, would be hard.
Especially as a child, because you don't understand life and you haven't developed any skills in relationships, only with your family. And my mother didn't know they were auras. My mother didn't know what they were called. And she just said to me, we don't talk about it outside the house. Anything you see, we talk about it when we get home, because she knew it was different.
Well, interesting.
And she knew it was true, because my uncle came to visit. He was a truck driver, and he called into our house on the way home. And I looked at him, and I was only 4 at the time, she said. This is my mother telling me the story, not me remembering. She said, I was only about 4 at the time. I walked up, put my hand on his stomach, and I turned to my mother and said, oh, sick, Uncle Jack, sick.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he died of bowel cancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And you knew it. You could see it. There's some great questions here, actually. Susan, are aura photos accurate? Good question, Susan.
Well, get an aura photograph. Susan, this is for Susan. Yes, they are accurate, but it's around the head and the shoulders. So if you want to invest a little money to see how your aura changes, get a photograph taken, then go back 15 minutes and get another one done, then 15 minutes and get another one done, and 15 minutes and get another one done. And they'll all be different colours simply because you're thinking.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with yes. I've always thought that. Yeah. Somebody was telling me recently, aura photos. And I'm like, yeah, not that they're not accurate, but they're only accurate for that minute that the photo's taken.
That's
but
right.
Right.
However,
the
colours that show down this part, right, that's your thinking starting to move down. Right. And so if I was to look at a photograph and read it, then I would be looking across the shoulder, right across the length of the shoulders, because that tells me that whatever you've experienced, whatever you have, your new beliefs, they're starting to move down into the aura, which means you're starting to adopt them.
Or embody them.
Yes, embody them, but also if it's a belief, you're adopting. You're adopting the belief.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fascinating. It's so strange. Judith and I were on camera like half an hour before we went live. And as soon as we've gone live, you've been completely blurry the whole time. But I know that it doesn't matter for people listening on radio. Thank you, or everyone that's listening on radio. But she's been blurry the whole time. I think that's your energy field interrupting with the tech. And Josie says here, how can we open to seeing auras? Can anyone see them? Thanks, Josie.
The answer to that, yes, anybody. I've taught thousands of people worldwide how to see auras. The question is, ask yourself, why do you want to see auras?
Yeah.
And if you have a sincere reason for seeing auras, then a part of the astral aura will facilitate the energy for you to open up and see the colors within the aura. But if you're like some people have said to me, could you please read my aura, please? I want to know if my husband is cheating on me. Well, you'll never read an aura. Or if you want to read an aura saying, I know my teenage son is up to something, I want to read his aura so I find out what he's up to, you'll never read an aura, because auras don't have negativity in the auric vision.
Josie says here, that's funny. I've got enough going on. I don't think it's my gig.
Good on you.
Yeah, look, I don't see auras like, because I have ability, but I don't see auras like Judith. I don't. And I've had people teach me, but I can do, like when people classically teach you, they ask you to blur your vision and see the energy field around people, like looking through your outside eyes or your physical eyes. And I can see energy fields around everything, especially around plants. And I can see fairies and I can see orbs and all this stuff with my outside eyes. But I don't see people's auras or their colors. But I can go with my third eye and see what their energy is doing. But I still don't see colors like you do. I see it differently. And I think that we're all perceiving differently. But I can see where there's interruption in the energy field, where the energy is moving smoothly and where it's not moving smoothly. So I see it completely differently to you. Like you see it as color and you interpret the color as meaning, right, Judith?
Yes. Well, the colors, it's not a color as a meaning. Colors have a vibration, they have an energy. And all colors interpret those energies. So you put them together. If you put apricot, which is caring communication, but you put it with brown, that means that someone's giving you some common sense advice. But if you put it with pale blue, it means that you're getting channeled energy coming through. So see the difference? So it's the colour combinations together that speak the language. That's why around your hands, you will have anything like 7 to 15 different colours because of things that are going on in your life. And the colour combinations together tell you exactly what's going on in your life. And you can either deal with it, you can release it, or you can say, this is exciting, let's go forward.
Yeah. So when did like police and people start contacting you for, you know, for your advice? I mean, I think that's really cool that, you know, law enforcement and what does it say in your bio? And who else was contacting you for medics? Like what the medical profession, they were contacting me. I know that you've got, Judith is like a wealth of stories. She's got so many stories, but yeah, just share one of the ones that, you know, the stories that you love.
All right. Doctors invited me into a hospital. They put a white coat on me and I walked through the ward, geriatric ward, and they said to me, we're going to see Mrs. Well, just call her Smith, Mrs. Smith. She's on the first bed on the right-hand side. So walked in and the doctors gathered around the bed and they said to Mrs. Smith, well, this is Judith. Judith's another practitioner and she's just going to have a look at you. Yes, I was a practitioner and I was a technician. And so I looked at her and I said to her, I pointed to the groin and I said to her, how long have you had that pain down in the groin? It looks about 20 years old. And her husband said, oh, no, I think it'd be about 30 years old. Wouldn't it be 30 years old? And she said, yeah, I think it'd be 30 years old. And the doctors are standing around saying, what pain? Where? They had treated her and she'd been in and out of hospital several times. Never once did she mention that pain, simply because she'd had it investigated 25 years ago. And they told her that they couldn't find anything. Well, it turned out to be the cause of the issues that she was having now.
And so the doctors, what, did a biopsy on it or operated in that area?
I don't know what they did because I then left. I wasn't part of the final diagnosis, but I know they did give me the feedback that she was, they proceeded and she was fine.
So how long ago was this, Judith? Was it recently or 2030s?
1992.
Yeah, so it was a while ago. So how come, Susan says, thank you, how come they were open to this? Because most doctors are not open to any sort of psychic ability. Or how did you get in contact with medics that were open to this? What happened?
Well, your statement there, if I can correct you, doctors are individuals. Doctors have individual beliefs. And so doctors know who they can share their beliefs with. So this group of doctors believed in past lives. They believed in out-of-body experiences, and they talked to me about all of that. One of them walked into a festival I was doing, and one of them came along to a public lecture. One of them watched me on television in Melbourne being interviewed and said, there's our lady. And so they contacted me and said, could you be at this hospital for us? And I went and, it was great.
Wow,
I had a great time.
That's very cool. Oh, I love hearing those stories. And what about working with law enforcement? How did that come about?
Law enforcement, I'll tell one story, because the little girl is buried not far from where I live. I had a sergeant of police call me and he said, you don't know me, but I've been told that I should consult you. He said, we've been looking for this little girl. She was 8 years old and we've been looking for her for now 2 weeks. And I said, do you want to know if the body is dead or alive? And he said, yes, we do. He said, because it'll change the places where we begin to look. And I said, well, that's all right. I said, just get a photo, put the photograph in front of you. And I said, and I'll read the photograph and you just say yes or no. And I said, right, the photograph's there, little girl, brown eyes, brown hair, orange top on. He said, that's right. I said, right, now let me tuned in. And then I said to him, I said, right, now, do you know this road? As you go down the road and down the hill, there's tracks going off. Miss 4, and then you'll see one that's got a bush leaning over it. Go down there. She's laying face down in a dam. And so later that night, the news bulletins were that she had been found. So that gives you an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, so she was found dead. She was dead.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. When you
And
tune in
other-
like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, go on.
Other
Go on.
police work I've done, I can't talk about it, can't talk
Right.
publicly about it. And one
yeah.
big project I worked on, I had 2 members of the Foreign Affairs Department come to my home, and I had to sign the Secrets Act.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've done some big work.
You have. You're a gem. You're
I've
a
done-
true.
You
You
have
are a
to
true
sign
gem.
the Official Secrets Act. You're on a big project. Yes.
So, but these people were obviously open to this work. Did you bump up
No.
against
No,
police?
they weren't. No, they weren't
open to
open.
it. Okay.
They tried everything, and somebody had
Mhm.
said, give it a go. Yeah.
Okay, so you had a few skeptics thinking, oh, this is going to be, this won't work, and you proved them wrong, darling.
No, I don't think so, because I don't talk esoterically. I
Yeah.
talk.
Pretty down to earth.
Samuel says to me, Samuel said,
Yeah.
you're so matter of fact, just so matter of fact. And I think the difference is because I've been doing it all my life. It's just like talking and sleeping, and eating. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's nothing
normal
to
for you.
me. Yeah, it's normal for me. And
Yeah.
I never, ever looked at it as being special until I started to work with doctors to help people.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's normal for everyone. We just need to reactivate, reinvigorate, reactivate the DNA that allows us to do it. But, when you do it, it feels so not special. I think that when you're thinking about how special it is, you think that when it's happening, it's going to be like bells and whistles and angels chiming, and I don't know what the hell people think. But when it happens, it's so normal. It's just like breathing or thinking, isn't it? Like when psychic abilities happening, it doesn't feel very special. It feels just like thinking, imagining, thinking, feeling.
If we have new mums, brand new mums listening, brand new babies,
Exactly.
what they can do, they hold the baby up to the throat chakra like that. Take 3 very slow, deep breaths. Put the hand over the back of the heart of the baby and hold the baby like that. Then they can blend their auras together. Now, the baby's aura is new and fresh, and it can stimulate the activity of the mother's aura and help to open her own auric vision.
Yes, Shirley says like second nature. Josie's got another question here. Do you ever feel threatened or frightened? Does anything shock you? She says. That's a great question, Josie, especially when working with police and looking for dead bodies.
No, I don't think anything shocks me anymore. I've been doing this for too long. Once upon a time, you'd ask those questions back in the 80s and the 90s, I would have said yes. But now I've been doing it too long. The other thing too, I've never shared with you, that I've worked in war zones, deliberately worked in war zones, volunteered, worked with the Red Cross. My husband and I have gone and we've worked with injured soldiers, terrified people. I've worked with groups of, remember back in the 1970s, early 80s, the Vietnamese refugees coming in, the boat people. I've done a lot of work with those. And you see within the aura, you see the torture. You see the bewilderment of being your language, your loved ones, and your country, your sense of belonging. You've left it behind. And you don't see what you don't see. And you don't see fear as fear or terror as terror. What you see is the strongest colour in the aura, and that's claret. When claret appears, the claret red appears in your aura, you have the inner strength coming from the astral layer of the aura, which is really strong. It's the one that allows you to explore life, right? Because when you die, you take all that exploration with you. It's your life experience. And so when the claret energy comes in and the astral aura's behind it, you'll overcome anything that you need to overcome and build a new life.
Wow. So the claret red is depicting trauma, but it's also depicting strength.
No, it
Strength
doesn't
to
depict
overcome.
trauma.
It doesn't
it's
depict
the
trauma.
colour
But you said,
attached to when claret energy appears in your aura, you are strong, right?
okay.
But colours that are attached to it, if it was pale blue, you would say that you are now being able to astral travel. You are now channeling. You're into your higher self. You're able to flip back into past lives, if it was that. If it was claret red with apricot, it would show that you were possibly a psychologist or a psychiatrist. See what I mean?
Right.
It's the language of the colours. But their colour is attached to loss, heartache, broken. So it shows that it can power all of that forward.
Wow, this is so fascinating. You are fascinating. I'd love to get you on Preston and Dolly's show, The Lightgate, because they are two extraordinary beings on planet Earth. I know a lot of extraordinary beings, having been doing this show for so long. But yeah, both of them are conscious astral travelers. They remember all their astral adventures at night, and they're often, helping people cross over dimensions and doing all sorts of things. They're amazing. I'd love to know what you see in their auras. Yeah. Just to remind people that you're listening to Accentuate the Positive, Awakening and Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM. And my extraordinary guest today is Judith Collins. She's an Australian lady who lives just outside of Sydney on a sustainable farm. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about sustainability and farming. She's a wealth of information about all that. You could have 3 million podcast shows just on that. But also born a psychic who was able to see and read auras. So seeing auras and reading people, does that come with healing abilities as well, Judith? Or is it just the ability to read and then you formulate some plan of action to do the healing?
Well, nobody ever taught me how to heal.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things that came. Basically, what happened to me, I think it was in the late 80s. I think it was the late 80s. I had a lady knock on my door. Now, I live on a dirt road, on a country road, in a country town, and 8 kilometres out of the town. So you've got to find me. But they ran a meditation group in Sydney, and they were trying to tap into a force, and they tracked the force down this vortex, and they were trapping it down. And so they decided that they'd get in the car, drive down to where they thought the vortex was located, and then they would get out, sit on the grass and meditate around it to try and find out where it was. And then they knocked on my front door and said, "You're it." And I said, who are you? And they came in and they said to me, "Well, you do these things." I didn't understand the words they were using. I didn't understand their esoteric language. And they said, "But you can do these things." And I went, "No, I don't do these things." And they said, "Yeah, but you can. And I said, "No, I don't." And my husband entered the room and he said, "No, because she doesn't want to do it. That's why she doesn't do it. She doesn't want to do it." Now, they got to my husband, talked to my husband and said, "We've got to get her out in public." She doesn't want to do it, but we've got to get her out in public. She can help a lot of people.
Yeah.
So they said to my husband, if you can't talk her into it, then what we've got to do is we've got to organise something where she's going to be, and we'll just confront her with it. And my husband said, no, I don't want to do that to her. You know, if she gets angry, she could blast the roof off the whole place. So what they did, they booked a stall at the Mind, Body and Spirit Festival.
Yep.
And got my husband to go in. This is the first year of the Mind, Body and Spirit Festival in Sydney.
So that
And
would have been
they
over
booked the
30
stall.
years ago.
That's right, over 30 years
Yeah.
ago. They booked the stall.
Yeah.
And I was supposed, they got my husband to print off all these blank aura outlines and get colour pencils so I could do all that, colour the auras in. I walked around. My husband said, look, I'm just setting this up. We're just here. Well, you just go walk around and have a look and whatever. And I did that. Anyway, as I went down near the front door of the festival, I met a friend who does yoga. And I said, what are you doing? She said, oh, I'm going to a free workshop. And I said, oh, well, Paul's doing something up on the stall. I said, how long's the workshop go for? And she said, 40 minutes, I think. I said, oh, it's all right. I'll come with you. So I went along to the workshop. When I came back, when we came out, she said, oh, where's the stall? And I said, oh, up here somewhere, 4 aisles over. We saw this queue a mile long, right, went from the front door right up to the stall. And she said to me, I wonder who's selling something up there. Let's go and have a look at who's selling. They weren't. They're on a queue for my stall. And and I walked in and the colouring pencils were out. And as I walked in, people said, oh, hello, Judith. I'm looking forward to do this. And I sat down for the very first time and I turned out auras every 10 minutes. And people were absolutely ecstatic. I had one cheeky man who didn't believe he'd been dragged to that festival by his family, and his wife had just done Reiki training. And so she said, no, coming along. And while she was getting her aura done, he kept talking and talking and talking. And it started to irritate me. And I looked up and I said, if you don't keep quiet, I'm going to start telling everybody about the metal plate that you have in your head. It's been there for 16 years, hasn't it? And he went, ooh. He came back the next day and got his aura done.
I love stories like that. I really do. I often wish I could do.
I got dragged into the arena.
Yeah. Dragged, kicking and screaming. And what was Paul's part in all of this? Did Paul have abilities as well, or was he? Yeah, what was Paul's?
No. I'll give you an example. You were talking about astral traveling, right?
Yeah.
One night, my son was home, and he said to us, have you got anything planned tonight? What are we doing tonight? And I said, well, I don't know. And Paul said, oh, well, I don't know. And I said, well, if you get the pillows out and get the quilts out and put them on the lounge room floor, I said, how about I take you somewhere? And my son said, oh, wow. I think at the time he was 19. And my husband said, yeah, all right. So they lay down and I was between them holding their hands. And so I lined up to leave and I took them with me. And so that was the first time they had ever been astral traveling. I lifted them up.
Okay, so you took the whole gang. You took Paul and the kid. How many children do you have? 2?
And Andrew. Yeah, I took Andrew.
Paul and Andrew.
Our son. He was the only one at home. He's a chef. And
you took them out of their bodies.
Yeah, you took them out of their bodies.
And did they, when they came back into the body, did they have full memory of that experience?
Yes,
they did.
Yes. Yeah. And then I said to them, we came back in and I said, anybody want a hot chocolate? So we all went into the kitchen, had a hot chocolate. We're all sitting around talking about it. I took them to 3 different places.
Where did you go? What places did you take them to?
I took them to ancient Italy just to see the ruins.
Wow.
I didn't take them into a particular past life. I took them to see the ruins. Then I took them over and we went up the boulevard in Paris. And then I took them to a stone circle in the UK.
Wow. Wow. So when you said you went to ancient Italy, did you go back in time? How did you do that?
We went back in time, but I blocked out all the noise and the people so that they could see what ancient Italy, ancient Rome looked like without anybody screaming, yelling, being tortured, run down the street, whipped, and nothing.
Wow. You are extraordinary. You just I'm amazed it's taken me this long to find you, and it had to come from somebody who lives in the States to tell me about you, and you only live like an hour and a half away from me. Right. Yeah, I bet you I bumped into you 30 years ago at the Mind Body Spirit. It was great back then. It's just turned into a big crystal shop with a few readers and some speakers and singers, but back then it was much more fascinating. It's become such a commercial venture these days. But so how did you know that you could at will move into your astral form and leave your physical form? Like, were you doing that as a child? How did you know that you could do that and that you could take people with you?
Well, I'll answer that question in two ways. One, in the astral aura, it has everything you want to know about yourself. Astral traveling, past life regressions, family connections, all different types of work that you will do throughout your life, how it unfolds. It's all there. And it's all in that barcode for a start.
Right.
And the other way I'll answer your question is that you see ETs as masters or the ascendant. No. In the astral aura, because they connect through the astral aura, they're not. They're just wiser people, wiser beings. They don't see themselves as masters. They don't see themselves as ascendants. It's we who like to put them on a pedestal to show that there's something better than we are. But they're the first to say that we have chosen this human experience. Our souls chose the human experience. So they see us as the more enlightened because we're taking back a whole wealth of experience that they will never encounter.
I totally agree with you. Absolutely. Yep. We are the masters. We're the ones choosing to incarnate into density and have to put up with all the, stuff that goes on planet Earth, and the lying and the cheating and the corruption and the negative emotions.
I mean, the lying and the cheating is not everywhere.
It's not.
No. I mean,
but we're the ones electing to have that experience, whereas they're having a more easier experience than us, because we're the one diving through density.
If you want to know how to enlighten yourself, it's quite easy, because the barcode and telling you that you've got to have a human experience, that you're a human being, like being human being. I mean, two separate words, being a human or human being. You have to find a way around your own self-development as a character. So you have to be authentic to who you are. You don't have to pretend to be somebody else. What I saw in the changes of the aura as we turned to the change of the century was people were becoming more self-centered, more self-indulgent, and more attached to a big TV, a particular car, diets, regimes, gyms, memberships, football team, everything they're attached to. They're filling their life full of attachments. But in actual fact, that attachment is a false attachment, because the only attachment that we as human beings master is our tribe. And your tribe starts with mum and dad, brothers and sisters, cousins, aunties and uncles, grandparents, neighbours, school friends. There's your tribe.
The people you surround yourself with. Absolutely. Oh God, I've got a million questions running through my mind as I listen to you, and then I forget them because another one pops in. But what are you saying here, Josie? Love that. Be authentic to who you are. What are you asking here? What if we're holding, I remember my question. What if we're holding frequency that feels overwhelming, yet we know we must serve with it? How do we get ourselves out of the way? So I think you've worked talking as a healer, a speaker, practitioner. If you're feeling overwhelmed, how do you serve others when you feel overwhelmed? Is that what you're saying, Josie? How do you get yourself out of the way?
Yeah. I understand what she's saying. And we all have to do it. Sometimes as mothers, we have to get out of the way of our children growing up, teenagers growing up, but we feel overwhelmed by their needs or their demands.
Absolutely.
Happens in relationships, husbands and wives, happens with your own parents. You have to get away of an overwhelming situation when you lose a loved one, your own parents, husband, wife, baby dying, and so on. There is a way that you can do it, Josie. It's very easy. You simply just go to sleep one night, get up in the morning, and you say to yourself, not today. This is part of something. If you get a language that your astral aura can understand, it will move everything for you and you can get on with what you want to do. And I use a little trigger. Not today. Not at the minute. Not at the moment.
Yeah.
Not today. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I never say go away. Go away is
that's resistance.
Say. So your language has to be positive.
Yes.
Because it's the astral aura. When you die, all your life experience is absorbed by your astral aura and taken out of the physical body that decays and goes into the spirit realm. So that when you appear to your children in their adulthood, they look at you and go, they see you and they in spirit and they go, they recognize you because your astral aura has got everything that they know about you in it.
That they remember about who you were as a human. Yeah.
Yes, because it records everything. And the astral aura recording everything. And the astral aura recording everything is part of your next incarnation.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, the fabulous Wayne Dyer used to say, when you encounter a negative thought, instead of resisting it or saying go away or suffering over it, just say next.
Exactly.
Next. Like scrolling through Instagram. Well, that's interesting. Next. Interesting. Next.
Yeah.
But I've got a quick Josie's also got another one here, but what about, because we were talking about you coming to the city. Josie's one of the speakers in the Afterlife Convention, Awaken, next year. And I was asking Judith if maybe she would leave her country paradise and come up to the city. And she said, let me think about that. The big city, lots of people, lots of chaos. How does a sensitive or like deal in like a chaotic city experience? How do you turn it off and on? And when you turn it on, are you overwhelmed and overstimulated? Like, how does all that work for you, darling one?
All right. If you live in a block of units, your aura is inside your neighbour's apartment.
Yep.
Your aura is across the hallway in your neighbour's apartment, because auras embrace the atmosphere and they go out to make a tribe. They encompass a tribe. So depending on where you live, and the reason I live where I live is because I don't have any neighbours. And if I do have people live in the street, which I do, they are a long way away, that my aura won't touch them and their aura won't touch me. So that way I can stay authentic to who I am and they can stay authentic. When you live in an apartment, you can't, because you're blended with everybody else. That's where frustrations, anger, impatience, a lack of understanding, all those things begin to happen. The same in all the new housing developments that are all on top of each other and don't have space between the houses anymore. All the auras are going inside all the walls. So you've either got to agree to disagree, or otherwise you're going to be very unhappy living there. So how do you fix that?
Mm-hmm.
You can walk out into the sunshine. This is a very simple, easy human thing to do. You can walk out into the sunshine, or you can walk out to a new moon, into outside under a new moon, not a full moon, a new moon. And you simply just close your eyes and say, I am within my authentic self. That's it. Simple as that. I am within my authentic self. Now, the sun has energy that can penetrate all layers. The new moon has energy that is healing and can penetrate all layers. So they're the two ones that you can use just out in nature.
Beautiful. Say it again. What is it that we say when we go in the sun? I authenticate. No, I
am my authenticated self, or I am my authenticated self, or you can vary the words so long as they're positive. You don't have to say exactly what I do. I usually walk out. I mean, this is going to make people laugh, but I usually walk out at 6 o'clock in the morning when the sun is at its freshness and the kangaroos are all around me. And I stand there on my veranda and I just go, I am my authenticated self. Yeah. And that will balance, that causes a trigger within the astral layer of the aura and the physical layer of the aura to come together. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. I often tell people too that you have the ability to expand and contract your aura. Like if you're feeling over vulnerable and oversensitive and you feel people, trampling through your energy field and you're overwhelmed with all their thoughts and energy, you can sort of bring it in and wrap it around you kind of like a blanket and expand it. I find that when people like you, we had a perfect vision before we went live. As soon as you started speaking, I reckon your aura just expanded and it's totally messed up the internet and you've been blurry the whole time because your expanded aura as you are giving to the audience, you're giving, but you can bring it in and expand it out and bring it in depending on what you want to do. You can have control over it. Often you don't have control because it's just happening if you're frightened or if you're giving, or it's happening, but you can control it. You can bring it in. Josie also says here, if my light is big and it may be large too large for others to handle, how can we be comfortable embodying the light? Interesting question.
The question that I asked Josie is, where do you believe this light to be? Yeah. Because the aura doesn't have a particular light. I mean, if you are embracing a soulmate, then there is a pearly sheen that shows the union of soulmates in a relationship, or a soulmate with a mother or a father. Soul families have that little glow, but it's only very small. It's the size of a pearl. So I want to know if she can explain what she understands to be the light, and I can answer the question.
A pearly sheen. I love that. I have a friend who's a light worker. He's also a pearl dealer, and we've discussed the energy of pearl and when I first met him, he came as a client like 24 years ago, and I had this dream that I was standing, or I was having an astral experience, I remembered, and I was standing in this room that was just like being inside a pearl. I was just surrounded by pearl essence. Just it's the most exquisite energy, beautiful energy. And I read another book where they use pearl to make building materials in their homes on another planet, another highly advanced planet like Thiuba, like the Thiuba prophecy, but it was a different book by, I think that was Elizabeth Clara's book. beyond the light barrier. She went to another planet and she experienced a highly evolved civilization, and they used pearl in their homes. And so what do you see when you see the essence of pearl or in someone's
What
aura?
do
You
I
said,
see?
what does it mean to
Well,
you?
it only occurs with soulmates. So if people are working with soul family, if you see one person by themselves, you don't see it. But when they're accompanied by a child or a parent or their partner, then you see it. It's ignited by two soulmates being together only.
So, Judith, what's been the most extraordinary person or aura you've ever seen on a human? Or have you?
Easy. I can answer that question very quickly.
Yeah.
The most spiritual, blessed, holy, unconditional aura I have ever seen belonged to an 87-year-old woman in Melbourne, Australia.
87.
87 years old, who since a child had belonged to her church, gone with her mother, and looked after the homeless and fed the poor and tended to the sick. And she'd done this since a child. And at the age of 87, she was at home. She was cooking up meals. She had a special little trolley made, and she would take her hot meals down the road to all the overhead car tunnels, and she would feed all the homeless youths, the drug addicts, the poor girls that were forced into prostitution. She would feed them all. She never felt afraid because they all protected her, because she was there every night of the week, 7 times a week. Every night of the week, she took them down their food. And she's had the holiest. I compared her to auras of Sai Baba and all these gurus, and she shone because she was being human on all the levels. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I remember when I was a young mother with a baby at home, and I would be watching Oprah as I was at home with the baby, and there was a man who had been in a plane crash, and he was not anyone that thought he could see auras or even thought about it. But as he was escaping the plane and he saw bodies burning in the plane, he saw their light. Like he was in, in that, like, I don't know, in that near to death too, because he could have been killed, but he survived. But he said he saw the lights leaving their bodies, and he said some shone really brightly and some were really dull. And it made him think, I want to live the rest of my life so that my light shines. He didn't even understand that we had lights or consciousness or anything at that point. He was just a businessman in a plane crash, but he saw it. He saw as the bodies were dying. He saw the different lights leaving the body, some dull and some bright. And yeah, it impacted him for the rest of his life, and he lived the rest of his life completely differently in service to others because he wanted to have a shiny, bright light, especially when he died. That was his story. I thought that was amazing. Yeah, to have that shiny, bright light.
When I was 9 years old, I went into a shop with a girlfriend and we bought ourselves an ice cream. And when we bought our ice cream, a big petrol tanker came through the wall of the shop. And so we were pinned up against the wall, and I watched the driver, his son in the cabin, and the shopkeeper burned to death. So that was an experience. I saw everything separating. Yeah. The only thing I got burnt was my feet.
Wow. So what did you see? You saw the consciousness leaving the body, did you, at the time that they were dying?
Yes. Yeah.
And did you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, darling, say that again.
Yes, I've seen it separating children, adults, elderly people. Yeah.
And And do you see their light as bright or like, did you see what this man was explaining, the brightness of their aura or consciousness as it exits the body?
It's different for different. It's different in every person. We are individuals as souls. We are individual.
Yeah.
And so how we glow, how we shine, what our light is, how we lift our consciousness, and our level of consciousness is determined by our individuality. We are true individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. Carolyn says here, as I look into the sky, I can see tiny little translucent orbs like fireflies flying around everywhere. I see that too, all the time. What is this? Curious, she says.
The energy that bounces around the universe, which is what we're talking about, comes down and we see it. And it's really just energy, little orbs of energy dancing around. And it's reflected by light against cloud. And basically that's what happens.
Against cloud, did you say?
Yes, against cloud.
But what if you're seeing it? I see it like looking into the garden. I don't see it up when I look into the sky. I see it right in front of me, like little dancing lights, squiggly like fireflies everywhere, little dancing lights.
That's just the energy of nature in front of you.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Sit down very quietly and you just look about a meter above the grass, you will see it all dancing everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she says she can see it everywhere. Yeah, let's get into the story of nature. I just want to remind people that you're listening to ATP Media, Accentuate the Positive, Awakening Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM. Streaming, syndicated radio, streaming all over the US and Canada, and we are on several platforms on the internet, including YouTube and Facebook and Twitch. We're on Twitch today and Rumble. And thanks for everyone who is tuning in. My guest today is the extraordinary Judith Collins. We're talking energy fields, seeing the human aura, but Judith has also lived and worked on a sustainable farm for how many years, Judith? 50?
52.
52 years you've been on the farm? And you work with the energy of nature. You see the auras of plants, and do you see the fairy kingdom?
I wrote a book called Companion Gardening, Working with Mother Nature. And people say, oh, the book has not stopped selling for 36 years, I think. 36 years. It's been on sale for 36 years. The publishers call it an institution. People find it fascinating. But when I'm talking to like-minded people, I can tell them it's because I see the auras of plants. That's why it all works so well. But to the readers, they don't hear or see that.
Yeah. So do you talk to the fairies in the garden or the elemental kingdom?
Yep, I certainly do. Certainly do.
What does that look like for you? How does that occur?
Basic colors. Delft blue, royal blue, apple green, iridescent green, lemon yellow, burnt orange, ochre, brown, tan, mushroom. Yeah, those kind of colors.
So you've had your companion with you for 52 years, which is your husband, Paul, who has just transitioned this September. But he was sick for quite a long time before he transitioned. As a healer, and how many years?
22 years he was sick.
How was that for you as someone who is a healer? Like, what was that like, living with someone who was suffering?
Well, in all the years we were together, 52 years, I never once read his aura. Never once, never. Not even when he was sick, never.
Why was that?
Because it's an invasion of privacy. I don't read people's auras because it's an invasion of privacy.
Did he never ask you to read his aura?
No, never. he's grabbed my hand and said, "Put it on this, please." They gave him 22 years ago. They gave him 5 weeks to live, and he lived for
Right.
22 years. Yeah.
Okay. What was he
After that,
diagnosed with?
They didn't know. They didn't know what was wrong with him.
Oh.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah.
And have
There
you
are
been
things
hanging
that
out with him?
doctors
Pardon, Dave?
don't know. They
Say that
didn't.
again?
The doctors didn't know, so they don't know everything.
Really? I would never have known. So have you been hanging out on the astral planes with Paul?
No, not yet. Too soon.
Not too soon? Why is it too
Too
soon? Is
soon.
it too soon for you or too soon for him?
No, too soon for him. He's got to go through a whole lot of reflecting. What I did, I had his body brought home from the hospital and put in his favourite room in the house, the library, and put him in there. I laid him on a cooling plate for 4 days so that I could work on his astral aura. That meant going astral traveling to connect that, so I could take away any fear of leaving me behind, any anxiety of leaving the planet, things undone. So I removed all of that to give him plain sailing.
To give him plain sailing. And
That's how much I loved him.
did you go into grief, or because of your understanding of who we are as energy and not the physical body, are you just completely in alignment with what has happened?
Family around me are totally amazed because I haven't gone into screaming heebie-jeebie grief.
Right.
On a day-to-day basis, I miss his company because we were communicators. We talked about everything. I miss that. But I know where he is. I know that his whole funeral process was all environmentally friendly. He left the house in a recycled cardboard coffin, whereupon I had bought all this coloured cardboard and cut out hearts so that family, friends and neighbours could write their message to Paul, a farewell. We didn't have a funeral. We had a farewell afternoon tea. They could write their message on the heart and then stick it onto the coffin. Then the next day, the coffin went for cremation. No impact of environmental hazards being processed in the cremation. And then his ashes came back to me. Our agreement was that when I go, I do the same thing. All our ashes are merged together, all mixed together. Then they're going to be mixed with some compost. Because a lot of human ashes don't have much nutrition in them for plants or the ground or the soil. And so they're going to mix with compost, and then they're going to be just not put on a tree or anything like that. They're going to be placed in a hole in the ground so that the earth and the grass can grow over the top.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Judith and I were talking the other day about this, and she was telling me. And I said, yeah, I've got a real bee in my bonnet about beautiful trees getting cut down and turned into coffins so that they get thrown into a furnace. I'm like, I want to be in a Hessian sack. And she said, no, you can't do that because all the liquids, flying out of your body when you're dead. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. And you said that they wanted to line the cardboard with plastic, but you came up with an alternative plan. Do you want to tell people what it was?
There is health and safety have regulations on it. Because of any disease that can break down viruses, bacteria, and so on. And so they line it with plastic, but we came up with a better idea. We lined it with beeswax. And it got through.
I thought that was brilliant. Yeah, I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Yeah. Well, we haven't got too long to go. I know there's a million stories that we haven't told today, which we can tell another day. But how do you see the future for planet Earth and people? Like, have you sort of looked into timelines? Have you put your consciousness in, like, where are we going? What's your opinion on all of that based on what you know?
From what I've understood, watching everybody, we have to get hold of the people who were born between the year 20 and 24. they are the people who are not as strong, not as wise, not as experienced, and not as enlightened as the previous generations before them.
Really?
And so
Why?
they could be our downfall because their auras show that they've got too many artificial attachments. They're self-indulgent. They are not independent because of all the attachments, and they don't facilitate hardships, and they don't allow themselves to be vulnerable. Vulnerable is how we grow. They try to empower over the top of the vulnerability, and that becomes a big problem. I'm not saying everybody, but there's a great big bank of them. They follow influencers, pop stars, footy teams, and all of them become attached, can become aggressive. Yeah.
But
It
isn't that just
an
isn't that just youth? You're talking about people who are between 0 to 24, 24 years old.
Yeah.
But isn't that just youth? Aren't we all selfish, hedonistic, egocentric people? And until we're around 24, 25.
No. Egocentric has risen. Vulnerability is reduced. Sensitivity in an emotional way has risen, but not in a spiritual way.
Yeah, it's true.
Emotional, yeah. That's right. Absolutely. And with that comes frustration, anger, and so on with that. A lack of wisdom brought from elders, that hasn't come forward. We know what we're doing. We know best. You're just too old. You're too whatever. We've got the new way, and so on. All of it's come from a tribe where we take our wisdom and we bring it forward. Then we put our interpretation on that wisdom and we move it forward even further. We've got a generation who aren't putting their interpretation on the wisdom and moving it forward.
Yeah.
And that's in so many areas.
It probably is. But I have to say, my experience having showcased New World teachers for like 25 years, when I was in my 30s, I was completely alone in this conversation. But I see the younger generation really stepping up to the plate and wanting to have this conversation, wanting to expand their enlightenment, their psychic ability, and having really psychic abilities and sensitivities. I see so many more young people. You look on the internet now and you see so many podcast shows with the younger generation talking about this. And I get a lot of people reach out to me who are, in their 20s and 30s. So I see an expansion in consciousness.
But Karen, I'm talking about the wider world. That's a select group of people.
You reckon I'm in a little bubble?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's the other.
Well, hopefully the bubble is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I see it getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So, they're influenced. We're all influenced by others, especially when we're young. And hopefully the younger generation can be influenced by the ones who are on a spiritual or enlightenment journey or expanding consciousness. Yeah. Yeah. So you haven't go on.
I have faith in future generations.
Yeah.
But always in the bubble. That bubble has to be stronger, brighter to overpower the rest. And I don't mean overpowering in a dominating way. I mean spreading its energy.
And Judith, what would you like your legacy to be? I know that you've written all these amazing books, which is a part of your legacy, and you've got this incredible sustainable farm teaching people how to be more sustainable on planet Earth and work with planet Earth. But what would you like people? What would you like to leave people with as your message to the world?
Well, in November 1969, I learned about climate change, and Paul and I stopped the world and we got off. And we didn't consume from supermarkets. We didn't do any of that. We grew all our own food. We then turned to teach people all around the world how to be sustainable, self-sufficient, how to be self-reliant, how to be self-empowered, and how to connect to Mother Nature. how connecting to Mother Nature is part of our human being, is a spiritual being. And so right now, our legacy, Paul that has passed away, our legacy sits in the Ukraine. It sits in Russia, it sits in Iceland, it sits in Norway, it sits in Finland, it sits in Sweden, it sits in Denmark, it sits in Japan, it sits, you're getting the message? We've taught people in all those countries and in America, all over America, and in Canada and New Zealand and in everywhere else, Italy, you name it, how to be sustainable and self-sufficient. All of those are making an environmental sustainable impact for Mother Earth within their own countries. They're embracing their own community. They've got community networks going. And this is the legacy, because it's the legacy of being a human being.
Yeah, well said. It is the legacy of being a human being. Leave the earth better than when you found it, when you leave.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what they're all doing.
So what can people do who live? What can people do who live in a big, crazy city to be more in tune with Mother Nature, who are shopping in supermarkets and throwing masses of plastic into rubbish and stuff like that? What do you suggest people do?
Well, we're people who like convenience. Human beings always like convenience. We like the easy way out. That's how we've come to this point in our life, getting everything easier and easier and easier. When people are buying food, purchasing food, look at and try as much as often, make sure that 65% of what you eat is homemade. That reduces all the plastics. And the rest is whatever fast food or whatever you need or to buy in the supermarket and so on. So home food will give you all the enzymes that you need to feed the pancreas and go right through the entire body to keep yourself well. I can go out and I can just get some broccoli and 10 minutes later just give it a light steam and eat it. So therefore I maximise all the nutrition in it. Now, as far as apartments go, if you've got a balcony, you can get all the energy that you need for your physical body, which is being human. You can get it from a pot of basil. You can get it from a pot of parsley or a pot of thyme. They can give you all the energy, even if you're having to buy your food from a supermarket. You need to have live enzymes that are freshly picked into your smoothie every day, or into your meal, or into your salad. It has to be a live enzyme to feed your body.
Beautiful. Yeah, there was a period of time where I was juicing for about 30 to 60 days. And so just fruit and vegetable. And yeah, there was no plastic, nothing from it was amazing. I haven't been able to recreate that, I have to say. But it was amazing to do that, to just eat vegetables, go to the organic market and just either eat them, raw or cook them or juice them. Yeah, it was amazing. And there's just no rubbish, or there's only compostable food waste that you can put in the compost.
Well, before we finish up, can I just explain the human aura to our listeners?
Yes, please. Absolutely.
Right. Well, the colours around your head up to your ears is all your thinking capacity, what happens to you, the conversations you have with people. If it's learning and if it's fruitful to you, those colours move down into your shoulders. That shows that you are carrying them forward. If they're still of value to you, or they're of a negative issue that you've adopted and you've taken on board, they will travel down to your arms, and that begins to show how you are living your life. You're conducting your life in the way of what you have learned or what's happened to you. The colours in your hands will then show what you believe in, the type of work you do, your self-understanding, your relationships, and so on. The colours under your arms, under your armpits, they're very important, because that's all your life coming together and forming a whole array of colours, something like about 6 or 8 colours that cause you to journey that reality. So they're forming a reality for you. The colours that move down in your hips are locked in to that reality. So if you've been meditating, you've been doing any spiritual work, they will show that that's the new reality that's opening for you. But if you've been locked into negative relationships and you hate your job and money is down, it will carry that stress forward. So you need to work on how to enlighten yourself from that stress. So the colours down your legs then show you how you are traveling forward, and they will be a pattern of 3 to 6 months. So they're very important colours. When we get down to the ankles and we get down to the feet, that shows, that mix of colours there show what you are standing in right now. Are you walking in a bog? Are you walking in love? Are you walking in change? Are you walking in personal advancement? Are you walking in financial stress? Are you walking in new ownership? It will show all of those colours. So that tells you where the colours are, what they're saying, and what they mean in all different parts of your aura.
Yeah, you're amazing. But you have been in retirement for quite some time now. I think that I've brought you a little bit out of retirement, putting you on the show today at Samuel Chong's insistence that I had to meet you and share your gifts with the world. So I suspect, Judith, you don't want people reaching out, for readings, do you? I don't know. Do you?
No, I mean, the whole thing is that I'm a single person.
Yeah.
When I get 500,000 readings to do, I can't possibly use my 24 hours, 7 days a week to do them all. So I suggest that people want to know all these things. They can get onto my blog, yourhumanaura.com, and that's one way. People can
read your book
through that.
Yeah.
They can read the Human Aura book. They can download that off Amazon if they want a digital copy. So that's basically it. I was only in retirement because I've been caring for my husband for 22 years.
Right.
But I've now come out of retirement because of the book going into the Chinese language. And now that I've got it, the first time ever, I've now got a blog. I've now got a blog on the Human Aura. So I think I'm out of retirement.
She's cooking with gas, this gal.
I've absolutely loved talking to you, Karen. You're a wonder.
Well, darling one, you are you just, I've been doing this for a long time, as I said, and there are a handful of people who just rock my world and, rock the boat, and you're one of them. You really are. You are such a pearl, a gem on this earth, and thank you so much for being here on planet Earth. I'd love to know what planet you come from. We didn't even talk about you and the ET, talking to your extraterrestrial tribe, but maybe we can talk about that another time. Yep. But Vladdy's in Germany. He's like, thank you both. It was a fascinating conversation. Susan, thank you. Carolyn, thank you. Thank you, Judith. Big love, sending you big love from everyone. And thanks everybody that's been listening and watching. And if you want to find out more about the show, go to karenswain.com. Or if you have some comments or suggestions, send me an email on the contact or connect page. And I'm going to have Judith back. I'm booked out this year. We're busy year, but I'd love to see you in Sydney talking at the conference next year. We'll see if we can make that happen. If you deign to come to the Big Smoke with your, I might
come to the Big Smoke. I'm sure a day won't kill me. Anyway, I wish everybody peace in themselves.
So you're happy to get to sort of leave your sustainable paradise and come to the Big Smoke?
Yes.
Beautiful. Big love to you, Judith. Thanks so much for being on the show. You are a true gem. And thanks, everybody, again for listening and watching. And we'll catch you next time. I think next week's show might be a recording because I'm going to be away, but I still haven't decided on that. But I think I'm going to upload a recording for the show. But, we've got lots of fabulous people coming up well, from here on to the end of the year. Love you all. Big love. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Bye.